Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, I want to talk about something that could quietly affect your paychecks, benefits, travel plans, and even some basic government services, all depending on what happens in Washington over the next few weeks. Most people don't realize how close we are to a critical deadline that could change things fast, and that's why it's worth paying attention right now. Here's the situation. The US Congress is supposed to pass 12 different funding bills every year. Each of these bills keeps a part of the government running. Think about it like this: defense, transportation, homeland security, health programs, and many other agencies all rely on these bills to have money to operate. Without them, the government can't fully function. Now, as of today, only a few of those bills have been fully approved. That means a large part of the government is still waiting for funding. Without action, we could see a partial or even full government shutdown. And that's not just political drama. It directly impacts federal employees, retirees, contractors, and families relying on government services. Recently, Congress passed a major funding package that covers departments like the Interior, EPA, Commerce, and Justice. This is good news because it shows that lawmakers can agree when there's common ground. But here's the catch. The biggest departments, including Defense and Homeland Security, still don't have long-term funding, and those are some of the most sensitive and politically charged areas of government. Why does this matter? Homeland Security, for example, has become a major point of conflict. Recent events, including public protests and tragic incidents involving federal officers, have pushed this department into the spotlight. Democrats are pushing for stricter oversight and accountability, especially for immigration enforcement. Republicans, with support from the Trump administration, argue that strong enforcement is critical for national security. This is more than just numbers on a spreadsheet. This is a fight about values, responsibility, and what the federal government should be allowed to do. And when funding decisions become tied up with these political and moral battles, passing the bills becomes a lot harder. Some lawmakers are now quietly discussing temporary fixes. They could pass short-term funding measures to keep departments like Homeland Security running for a while instead of approving a full budget. This would prevent an immediate shutdown, but it's a band-aid solution. Over time, stacking temporary fixes makes the system fragile and unpredictable. It's important to remember what happened just weeks ago. The country recently experienced a 43-day government shutdown, the longest in history. Even if you weren't directly affected, you probably noticed delays in services, slow processing of benefits, and news coverage about frustrated federal workers. People who depend on government consistency, retirees, contractors, and small business owners, were left wondering what would happen next. Shutdowns rarely create winners. The disruption is real, the blame gets spread around, and nobody walks away completely satisfied. That's why both parties usually say they want to avoid another one. But intentions don't always match outcomes. With midterm elections less than a year away, every decision is also a political calculation. Democrats don't want to appear reckless, but Republicans want to show they're pushing their priorities forward. And here's a key detail that doesn't get enough attention. While this drama is happening, Congress is quietly passing other important bills that don't make headlines. For example, they've been working on stopping improper Social Security payments going to deceased individuals. These bills move quickly because they're non-controversial, but major high-stakes issues like healthcare subsidies, immigration, and national security are where the real tension lies. So when people ask, is another government shutdown coming? The truth is, it depends. It depends on which fight becomes the final sticking point. Most experts think Congress will likely avoid a full shutdown by the January 30th deadline. Maybe they'll pass a temporary measure. Maybe they'll strike a partial deal. Maybe a quiet compromise happens without making the news. But here's the warning. Avoiding a shutdown doesn't mean the system is healthy. It just means we're delaying the problem. Temporary fixes can keep the lights on today, but make future deadlines more dangerous. And for anyone relying on federal services or paychecks, even the uncertainty alone can create stress. Now that we've walked through why the government could face a shutdown and what's at stake, it's time to zoom in on what this really means for you, your paychecks, benefits, and day-to-day life. Understanding the potential impact now can help you make small, simple steps to stay prepared and avoid stress. First, let's talk about federal employees. If a shutdown occurs, even a partial one, many federal workers could be furloughed again. That means no paycheck until the situation is resolved. Even if you're not a federal worker yourself, this has ripple effects. Services you rely on, from social security processing to health programs, from travel security at airports to government contractor work, could slow down or pause. Retirees, contractors, and small businesses connected to federal work often feel the consequences first. Even if a shutdown is avoided, temporary funding measures don't fix the underlying issues. The cycle of short-term fixes creates uncertainty. For example, someone receiving benefits may not know exactly when their next payment will arrive. Families planning travel or contractors preparing for work might hesitate to spend or hire, and that hesitation spreads through the economy. People spend less, businesses hold off on hiring, and communities feel the impact. It's not immediate, but over time the effects add up. Now let's talk about specific areas you should pay attention to. First, Social Security and other benefit programs. Historically, these payments have continued even during short-term shutdowns, but administrative delays can happen. That means if you're expecting a check, give yourself some extra time. Make sure your bank details and contact information are up to date so there's no unnecessary delay. Next, travel and transportation. Airports and federal security services could face slower processing times. TSA staffing and airport security may be reduced, creating longer lines or delays. If you're planning a trip around this deadline, it's smart to check with airlines or government agencies in advance. For contractors or businesses that rely on government contracts, even minor disruptions can be costly. Contracts may be delayed, approvals postponed, and payments held up. Preparing a small financial buffer and adjusting project timelines can prevent serious problems. One other area often overlooked is healthcare. Certain programs, like subsidies under the Affordable Care Act, have been delayed or complicated by political disagreements. A shutdown could temporarily affect communication, approvals, or funding for these programs. While the government works to minimize these effects, being aware and planning ahead can help you avoid surprises. So what can you do right now to be prepared? Here's a simple checklist: financial buffer. If possible, keep some extra money in your account to cover a week or two of unexpected delays in paychecks or benefits. Even a small cushion reduces stress. Stay informed. Follow official updates from federal agencies. Websites like the Social Security Administration, IRS, and TSA provide reliable information. Double-check accounts. Make sure your bank, benefit, and contact information is current. Simple mistakes can cause unnecessary delays. Plan travel and appointments. If you have trips or important deadlines, consider giving yourself extra time for potential slowdowns. Talk to your employer or service providers. If you work with the government or rely on their services, ask about contingency plans. Knowing what's likely to be affected reduces uncertainty. It's also worth thinking beyond immediate impacts. Every temporary fix adds pressure for the next deadline. The longer this cycle continues, the more fragile the system becomes. Even small delays or confusion can snowball into bigger problems. That's why staying prepared, informed, and cautious is more important than ever. Finally, let's consider the bigger picture. Avoiding a shutdown doesn't mean Washington is functioning perfectly. It just means politicians found a way to keep things running temporarily. The underlying disagreements over funding priorities, oversight, and political values remain. That means another deadline is likely, and the stakes may keep increasing over time. The key takeaway: don't panic, but don't ignore it either. Being aware, planning ahead, and understanding the process can make a big difference. Think of it like preparing for a storm. You hope it never hits, but having an umbrella, extra supplies, and a plan keeps you safe if it does. So stay alert, check for updates, and take small steps now. Even if no shutdown occurs, knowing how to navigate these deadlines gives you confidence. Your paychecks, benefits, travel plans, and day-to-day life are too important to leave entirely up to chance. At the end of the day, this is about more than politics. It's about real people, real paychecks, and real consequences. Lawmakers are making decisions that affect millions of Americans, and while the hope is that a deal is reached, staying prepared is the smartest move you can make. Remember, deadlines like January 30th aren't just political theatre. They are moments that affect everyday life. So keep informed, plan ahead, and take care of yourself and your family. Being proactive is the best way to protect your peace of mind, no matter what happens in Washington.